Namaste and welcome. This is our last week in the Yoga for Unity and Wellbeing program, 100 Days towards the International Day of Yoga. With us is Saraswathi Vasudevan. She hails from the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, a very well-known yoga school in the southern part of India, Chennai. Saraswathi Vasudevan learnt yoga directly from TKV Desikachar. TKV Desikachar is the direct disciple of Krishnamacharya ji. This master-disciple tradition that we call Guru Shishya Parampara is beautifully evident in her talk. Saraswathi Vasudevan, of course, went on to study yoga with a postgraduate diploma in yoga from the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram. Otherwise, she has a double master's degree in nutrition and psychology. And she founded the YogaVahini, which is a center for yoga and therapy and learning, with her husband in 2010. This lecture of hers, she's going to address a subject that is dear to most yoga enthusiasts. She's going to talk about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Now, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, of course, are well known in the world of yoga. But the way today that Saraswathi Vasudevan is going to explain to us how in daily life these sutras apply, what is the practical wisdom behind them. She takes and gives such simple examples so that we can relate to these sutras and have an interpretation that is so relevant to our modern times. Let's listen to her and see how she explains it. She speaks about how, as a young student in her early 20s, she would go every Saturday and learn with the great Acharya himself, where he would comment on the sutras. So something like the traditional Gurukul style in the midst of modern India. Let us see what she brings together for us. Hope you enjoy the talk. Namaste.
Namaste everyone. I want to thank the organizers of the Yoga for Unity initiative for inviting me to give this talk. I want to start with a prayer to Patanjali and to our teacher Krishnamacharya. Now, prayer is to acknowledge that whatever we have received has been received through many teachers, many generations of teachers, and what we are offering is from that. And to know that nothing belongs to us, and as long as we can remain an empty vessel in the service of universe, what needs to flow will flow beautifully. Prayer is also a great way to disconnect from the distractions and the preoccupations of the mind and to connect with the here and now. It has a power to silence our mind, and even when the mind becomes a little less busy, quieter, and a little more attentive, I think we can get a lot out of it. So sit back, but when you sit back, make sure your posture is one that enables attention at the same time you're relaxed. Just pay attention to your breath, let it be very quiet and smooth, and begin to listen. योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीना पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारम् शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्णवागीशयतीश्वराभ्यां सम्प्राप्तचक्राङ्कणभाष्यसारम् श्रीनूत्नरङ्गेन्द्रयतौ समर्पितस्वम् श्रीकृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमीडे विरोधे कार्तिके मासे शतताराकृतोदयम् योगाचार्यं कृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमहं भजे श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. So the topic for today's lecture is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. So you might wonder that it could be a long, boring philosophical discourse. Far from that. Yoga Sutra is about the study of the mind, our mind. So everything that is there in the Yoga Sutra is about us. And sometimes it takes many, many years to discover that. So today's lecture, I didn't want to go too much into the details of explaining to you the structure of the text or explaining to you the summary of the different chapters and all that. I just want us to dive deeper into how the study of this text could be relevant for all of us wherever we are right now. My study of the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali began when I was 21. I had come to Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram to work. I was all of 21, fresh from college. So you know that the way we have been studying, our education system teaches us to learn things in a very different way. It's almost like an outside-in process. Yeah. So I began to study the Yoga Sutra like physics, chemistry, biology. It took many, many years for me to understand that what I am studying about is myself. And this text is like a beautiful mirror that shows to me again and again what I need to see for myself. So my life keeps changing, I keep changing, my context is changing. But there is something that the text will show me wherever I am. So it's a text that we need to study over and over and over again. So I began the study by attending the public lectures of Sri TKV Desikachar, my teacher. So for over 17 years, every Saturday we had this lecture and my husband and I would go and attend. And then, of course, had other opportunities to study with him more formally the different chapters and also with other teachers. More recently, in the last 10 years, I have also been studying with a few other senior teachers from this tradition, like Sri Ramaswamy, who was a long-term disciple of Sri Krishnamacharya. I studied with teachers like Shri Ram and Jyotsna. And more importantly, I have been doing a lot of work with Sri Raghu Anantanarayana on a very deep exploration of our mind, the human psychology, our behavior, etc., through the lens of the Yoga Sutra. So it is all these teachers, who through their teachings and many, many students who have come to study the text with me, and through their questions that I have learned so much about myself, about my relationship with the world, and continuing to learn how to live life more fully and meaningfully. So I owe everything to this text. Krishnamacharya used to say that whatever is there in the Yoga Sutra is what is yoga, and what is not there in the Yoga Sutra cannot even be accepted as yoga, right? So whether it is for our practice, whether it is for our teaching, whether it is for therapy, whether it is to understand ourselves and how to live in this world better with greater sense of well-being, peace and harmony, for everything we can come back to the text. Of course, it was given many thousands of years ago, but the human mind has not changed. We have the same mind, we have the same kind of problems and the potentials. Nothing has changed. So the text does not require any updation, upgradation. It was and it is and it will continue to offer us everything that we need to know that is important for life. So it's a very special text. We can say Patanjali was the first psychologist, and this was the first text on human psychology. And like I said, it helps us to move within and look at ourselves in a very deep, subtle way. Now, like every other text that points us towards knowing ourselves, what we call Atma Vidya, whether we are looking at Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or the Yoga Sutra or any of the texts that pertain to the Indian pantheon of study, have a certain way in which we have to learn it. Like I was saying, it is not like an outside in process like we study the other subjects in college and university. It is an inside out process. So it requires a certain kind of readiness. The first step in the study is what we call Shravanam. Shravanam means to listen. And because this is a text that has been transmitted through the oral tradition, the Shravanam or listening is a very important capability one has to develop. And listening how? Listening with a very quiet mind. That's why when I did the prayer, I said, let this quieten the mind, because to listen, we need a quiet mind, an attentive mind. And I can only listen if I am interested in what I am listening to and I have some faith in the teacher who's teaching me what I need to listen to. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't listen. The second step is I can take something from what I have listened to, maybe not everything, and whatever evokes me, I take it in and I stay with it, I introspect, I reflect on it. And that step is called mananam, reflection. And that happens continuously. Yeah. And the third step is I internalize these teachings. I learn to bring it into my daily life. I practice, and that becomes me. That is called nidhyasana. It's almost like it becomes a meditative process. So these steps are through which we learn to internalize the teachings of the great masters and see how these texts can guide us on our path of self-discovery. And this is a cyclical process. It's not something that I spend 10 years of Shravanam and then I go to Mananam and Nidhyasanam. It has to happen continuously. Yeah, and it is not really how many postures I have mastered in my life, or how long I can hold my breath, or how many different texts I can quote from, that really determines whether I'm progressing on the path of yoga. What has to be apparent is how I live my life in this world. So my yamas, how I engage with the world, my practice of ahimsa and satyam, non-violence or non-harming, and living an honest life. Is this becoming apparent? Is this becoming natural and spontaneous for me? Yeah, that indicates that I am progressing on the path. So we know it is a struggle. We know it is a lifelong journey and maybe many lifetimes. Just to give you a little background to get into the subject matter for today, yoga is one of the 6 Vaidika darshanas. Vaidika darshanas are the 6 schools of Indian philosophy that accept the authority of the Vedas. Darshana means a mirror that can help me to see myself better, that can show me what I cannot see through my senses or normal course of perception. So out of the 6, we look at 2, Yoga and Sankhya, which are the sister darshanas. Sankhya provides a beautiful framework, cosmology to understand evolution, to understand reality, to understand the very basis of our existence. And yoga takes from that the foundation of the philosophical truth and explores the different practices, tools, and methods to really practically understand the truth of Sankhya. So yoga is a much more practical text. And what both these texts are talking about, and of course every other philosophy, the main motivation for all these philosophies is what we call dukkham. Dukkham can be translated as suffering, but it's a very poor translation of the word. Dukh is constriction. Kham is a space in my heart, a space where the Atma or myself resides. It's also the seat of my prana, my vitality. So dukkham is a certain experience of tightening or constriction in my heart. Whenever I get disturbed, I experience the dukkham, and it is an experience that wants me to get out of it as quickly as possible. I cannot stay very long in it. So Sankhya looks at dukkham. The very first word in the text is dukkham. Yeah, it says there are three kinds of dukkham, and we need to understand this better. So one form of dukkham is something which is very close to us, that which we create for ourselves. Intrinsically, we have the ability to create that suffering and get entangled in more and more pain. That's called adhyatmika dukkham. Then we have what's called adi bhautika dukkham. Something that is caused by some external factors, external reality. Like today we look at the COVID situation. We know it is a virus, we know it is spreading very fast, and all that is adi bhautika. And then there is something that we don't know the cause, and that we relegate to adi daivika. We say it is some divine intervention, we don't know. Yeah, we can't attribute a cause to it. Now, what Sankhya is saying is, whether it is adhyatmika or adi bhautika or adi daivika, we can do a lot to reduce the dukkham, minimize it to a large extent, and that is useful, definitely useful. But we see that that is not the permanent solution, because it temporarily helps me to reduce the pain, but it comes back in some other form. So unless I resolve the adi bhautika and adi daivika to the adhyatmika, unless I start looking at myself and say, how am I creating this pain? Why am I suffering? Why am I perceiving the situation in this way? And what can I do about it? And then to tell myself that I'm now willing to do something about it so that I can come out of the cycle of pain and suffering. Then we are ready for yoga. That's the very first sutra in the Yoga Sutra. Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Atha is asking, are you ready? Now are you ready? And the readiness is not just an intellectual curiosity. It is a readiness that comes from beginning to see that this dukkham is coming from somewhere inside me. I am creating it. And therefore, if I understand how I am creating it, I can put an end to it. Okay, so it is not any more temporary solutions. We might start with that. But what Yoga Sutra promises is that you can permanently get out of suffering. Yeah, that is the promise of yoga. Now, over the thousands of years, this text has, helped us to enter this field of the mind and explore it. And it's just 194 or 195 sutras, 4 chapters. You can learn the whole text by heart. In fact, that is what we are taught. We are taught to learn the text by heart so that it is inside us. And I can always go back and work with my questions and work with my inquiry. The form in which the text is presented is very, very special. Okay, and that has a very important significance. The sutra is a form of rendering a text where just very, very few words made into statements that carry the essence of a lot of knowledge that one can gather as one continues to study with the teacher, practice, and reflect. So sutra is a thread. Okay, like you have a thread on which you string beads. Every bead can be a concept, can be an understanding, can be an aspect of yourself that you're trying to unravel and look at more deeply. And as you work with it, you can go deeper and deeper and touch that invisible thread. And once you understand the beauty and the rhythm and the order in the way in which all these have been strung together, then it shows a certain direction. The direction is how to overcome dukkham. So direction or showing, pointing to something is also another meaning of the word sutra. So it points out to something. It shows you, yeah, right now you're suffering, all this is happening, but there's a way out and the direction is inward. Now, what the text is looking at, it's a very, very deep research into the human mind, the nature of the human mind. In fact, yoga itself is defined as a highest state of mind. And the yogis did not start exploring the mind like Western psychology, going from a sick mind. They started exploring the mind of the rishis and the sages, an extraordinary mind with powerful capabilities. So we are not only looking at a mind and its possibilities and capabilities, we are also looking at the mind with its problems and challenges and how to overcome these challenges. So the example given in the commentaries of the Yoga Sutra, the first few sutras, is like a mind which is like a magnetic ball that will continue to attract iron filings and becomes more and more opaque, and how the mind becomes more confused and agitated and incapable of attention. Such a mind can be transformed into a sphatika a clear crystal that can reflect to you the nature of reality as it is without any distortion. So eventually, we are looking at how to transform a mind that is like this magnetic ball, fully opaque and confused and agitated, to a mind that is like a crystal ball. So how to clean this instrument of our perception, because the fundamental problem is that we are not perceiving our reality as it is, but we think we are. We think we are seeing everything clearly. We think we are understanding everybody clearly, but we are not most of the time. So, yoga gives us a way in which you can continue to polish and clean this mind so that we can see more and more of this reality as it is than what we think it is to be. Yeah. So, how does one study the text? It's not just coming and studying a text, like we study many other texts, because the basis for the study is anushasana. That's again the part of the first sutra. Atha yoga anushasanam. Are you ready? You're going to study yoga, and the study is not intellectual. It is anushasanam. You have to practice. So we might start with the practice of asana and pranayama. Asana helps to bring the rajasic quality of the mind down. The mind is not intolerant anymore. It can be more attentive, more steady. Yeah? That steadiness is required for us to engage with the study of yoga. And pranayama, what it does is it polishes the mind, it reduces the dullness, the opacity of the mind, and helps the mind to be lighter and bring more clarity for me to see what I need to see. And meditative practices will help us to improve the sattvic quality in the mind, which is light and lightness. Okay, so practice of asana, pranayama, and meditation, all these are prerequisites to the path of yoga. I would say it is yoga, but in some way it is even before yoga. One can not say I'm ready because I'm practicing asana, pranayama. I can practice asana, pranayama, or meditation for many years, but I still may not be ready to look at myself. Yeah. So, what is really happening? Maybe we need to look at that a little more carefully as practitioners of yoga. And I'm speaking from my own experience of teaching and practicing yoga for many, many years. That there are two things that are happening. One is I love my practice. It has become regular, steady. It has become an integral part of my life. And I still struggle. Yeah, we still struggle with keeping with the practice, deepening the intensity of it, because there are many, many things that pull our attention away. And particularly in the last 2 years, we have experienced that quite a lot, all of us. So I'm seeing the benefits of the practice. It is improving my sense of well-being. It is making me a better person, more compassionate, probably. At least I'm more aware where I'm not so compassionate. All that is happening. But still, I struggle with keeping up with the regularity or intensity or progression. At another level, we are also living in the world. Okay, we are living in the world as householders. Yoga is for the householder. It is very, very, very few people who can just go away, leave everything and go and sit in the mountains. That is not what Patanjali is offering yoga for. Otherwise, yamas will not be on the top of the list. Yeah, so I have to engage with the world. I have to live fully. I have to play all the roles that I'm meant to play in my life and live a life that is more meaningful, that is full, and that is taking me in the direction of dharma. It's helping me to live a life that is in more harmony and peace with the world. So at both these levels, we continue to struggle. We continue to struggle with relationships. For example, what can happen is if, let's say, after a class, a student comes and tells me, "Oh, I just loved this class. It was so beautiful. I loved it." I feel so good about it. I feel like, yeah, this is what I want to hear. Yeah, it makes me feel sukham, expansive. But what happens is I begin to want more and more of it and from more and more people. And I'm even getting a little bit annoyed with those people who just walked away from class and haven't given me a positive feedback. But then I might get like 100 positive strokes, and then one person comes around and tells me, "Oh, this practice was very disturbing me. It was very confusing. I think you need to look at how you're teaching." Enough. It will bring my whole castle down, and I will start ruminating. I will start fighting with this reality because I don't want to experience that constriction, that dukkham. I only want to experience sukham. I don't want to experience dukkham. Now, if this is happening to me day in and day out, I don't have time to go in and look at it and all that. I want to quickly jump out of it because that's what dukkham does to me. I put a band-aid and I sit on it and I say, I'm a yoga teacher, so nothing will disturb me. Nothing should disturb me. I don't get angry. I don't get perturbed easily. I am very equanimous. What has happened, something has gone into me and I'm not even able to look at it. I don't have time to deal with it. And I'm too afraid to go into it. So the readiness of yoga is, are you ready to go in and look at yourself? It is not an easy path. It is not always a bed of roses to walk on, but it is a fascinating journey because it is not like you have light at the end of the tunnel. I have to walk all this way and then somewhere I will get enlightened. No. Every step of yoga takes you towards yoga. There's a very beautiful commentary on the third chapter of Yoga Sutra by Vyasa. It says, Yogena yogo jnatavyo, yogo yogat pravartati. It says, I can only understand yoga in a state of yoga. Okay? And I can only reach a state of yoga through the practice of yoga. So, the good news is that I can start wherever I am. I just need to have these questions alive in me. I need to start looking at the suffering and saying, where have I contributed to it and what can I do about it? Okay, rather than just pointing fingers at the world. When I start looking at myself, something will begin to shift. So I just want to look at this whole idea of how we get disturbed with our practice and the way we live our life and see what Yoga Sutra has to offer us. Yeah? So what happens when I feel that dukkha? It can be something very minor, the way somebody looks at me or passes a comment, or a big, big problem like grief and loss and all that. So I begin to look at what's happening to me. Yoga Sutra, that's the beauty of the text because they're just 4 words. Patanjali encompasses everything that you might feel when you are in dukkham. It says there is dukkham itself, there is constriction. Yeah. And that leads to the mind getting into the spiral of thinking, how dare that person says, how could this happen to me? Poor me, why is this happening to me? I'm such a good person. Oh, this is what that person did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The whole drama will keep replaying. Daur manasya. It will pull up all that is negative and it will play it again and again and again. So I can get consumed by that negativity of the mind. The third symptom is my physical discomfort. My body actually starts experiencing a lot of discomfort. It can happen in illness also. There's pain, there is trembling, there is fever. There is a certain way that I cannot hold steadiness and comfort in my body. And the fourth most important symptom is my breath gets restricted and agitated. So even if I can mask my dukkham, unless I talk about what's happening in my mind, nobody needs to know it. Okay, even physical discomfort I can mask to some extent, but what's happening to my breath I cannot hide. That's something that is very apparent, and this is where our practice becomes very important, because as we deepen our practice of asana and pranayama and meditation, I can see what is happening to me. I can see that physically I am not very comfortable. Yeah, my breath is getting agitated. I'm not able to exhale well or inhale well or hold my breath comfortably. And all these symptoms indicate that there's something else that's happening within us. So this is from the first chapter of Yoga Sutra, where Patanjali is talking about the different obstacles that come up on the path of yoga for every serious practitioner. Okay, 9 obstacles he talks about in the 30th sutra. So the first obstacle is vyadhi. Vyadhi is illness. Okay, we all know what it is, and this is the time that is really showing up in a very, very heightened way. And vyadhi has dukkham, definitely. It puts my mind into the spiral of anxiety and confusion and depression and anger and I don't know what. I don't know how much information I need to gather for me to know what I need to do. So I get into that spiral. And then physical discomfort, the pain, the fever, all the symptoms, and the breath is agitated. So any form of vyadhi can impact one or two or three or all the four usually of the symptoms. The other 8 symptoms are actually pertaining to the mind. Okay, Patanjali is other 4 obstacles, I mean, not symptoms, pertain to the problems of the mind. He is not referring to any external obstacle. Initially, when the student starts practicing, they say, it was raining, it was sunny, guest came, I didn't have time, mosquitoes were biting. No, none of those external obstacles are what Patanjali is talking about. And if there are 9 obstacles, there are only 9 obstacles, nothing more, nothing less. Okay? Everything that we experience as an obstacle can be fit into this 9. The second one is called sthana. Don't worry about the Sanskrit words. Sthana means a kind of a mental inertia. Say, I've learned something from my teacher. I bring back my practice. I say, from tomorrow, I will start practicing. In the morning, I wake up. I want to wake up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. The alarm goes. I wake up and I say, oh, I slept very late. I need to sleep more. I'm working so hard. Maybe I'll start on a Wednesday, or maybe I'll start on a full moon day or a new moon day. I will do that. There's something in my mind that is not ready to start something. So sthana is a kind of a mental inertia. Okay, we are very familiar with it. The third obstacle is called samshaya. It is doubt. Doubt, when I have too many options, of course, I am pulled into doubt. When my rajas is very high, I am jumping from one thing to the other. I'm not sure whether this practice is going to help me, that teacher I have to go to, which workshop I have to attend. So when I start doing something, I want to do something else, and then I keep moving from one thing to the other. Doubt consumes me. The next obstacle, the 4th obstacle, is called pramada. Pramada is mindlessness, carelessness. So I have learned to do asana, I have learned to do pranayama, and I think I know. So I lose my attentiveness. I become mindless in my practice. I don't even just become mindless in my practice, I become mindless as a person. Yeah, I am not very attentive, I am not listening properly. And I think, yeah, I know this. Somebody starts speaking about something, I am ready to finish their sentence because I know better than you. Yeah. And that the thing that I know makes me very careless. And the carelessness can also come for various other reasons. Yeah. The next one is called alasya. Alasya means fatigue, laziness. We are very familiar with that. Yeah. It keeps coming up. Sometimes it is like I've worked so hard, I become so fatigued that I can't pick myself up and stay with my practice. Sometimes it's illness that makes me very fatigued. Sometimes it is my food that makes me very heavy and lazy. So whatever that might be, alasya. The next one is avirati. No, I can have laziness, but I am also very impatient. Yeah, I'm always looking at when will I reach, when will I get the samadhi experience. Avirati is like, you can say greed or impatience. I want it now. That is avirati. So these are a little more apparent. The next three are a little more subtle, but they're important. Okay, the next one is called Bhranti Darshana. Bhranti Darshana means I am in a state of delusion, delusions of grandeur. So I am this yoga teacher. I have been practicing for 30 years. So I already imagine that everything that I'm teaching, I already know. I have already mastered. Yeah, I've already reached. I've already arrived. And so then I start behaving like that. And people also will tell me, they'll say you were speaking very clearly. When I can speak about samadhi, but they think, maybe I have experienced samadhi many times. I have not even touched that. Yeah, I don't know what samadhi is. I don't know what chittavritti nirodha is. But because I'm teaching all this, I begin to get into the delusion that I know. Yeah, that's a very, very big obstacle for all of us if we are practitioners. The longer we have been practicing, the longer we've been teaching, the greater that delusion can be. We need to be aware of it. The next one, the eighth one, is called Alabdha Bhumika. So as I progress on the path, I have some insight into the nature of my mind, my reality. I'm able to touch something. But I have to persevere with my practice. I have to persevere to hold a steady mind that can observe and understand more deeply. But I say, oh, I got it, so I don't. I don't persevere enough. So I am not able to reach a ground from where I can progress. I continue to just not have enough strength to practice and persevere. The last one is called Anavasthitatva. So maybe I have reached certain ground of clarity and steadiness of mind. I have experienced something very beautiful, but then I think, yeah, I have arrived. I don't have to do anything. I can fall down, so I can regress. All this can happen even to the most advanced practitioner. The first chapter of Yoga Sutra is for an evolved yogi. Yeah, it is not for people like us. For people like us, the second chapter is waiting. The first chapter is for an evolved yogi. Even such people can experience all of these antarayas or obstacles. Then imagine what our situation is. Yeah. Now, it doesn't matter where we are. These obstacles are very, very real. So Patanjali gives us a lot of beautiful solutions. And these are solutions which are apart from the Ashtanga Yoga that comes in the second chapter. These are solutions that will help us to quieten the mind, reduce the disturbance of the mind, so that we can steady ourselves and continue to progress on the path of practice. There are about 9 solutions that Patanjali offers, including Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering to a higher force. I want to just look at one solution, which is very simple, very practical. Yeah. 1.34. The solution is Prachardana Vidharanabhyam Va Pranasya. If you can't use any other tool, work with your breath. Okay, Prachardana is to throw out the breath. Throw out the breath means exhale deeply and completely. Focus on your exhalation. And as you exhale, throw out all that is disturbing you. Empty yourself completely. Vidharana can mean to extend the exhalation and hold the breath after exhalation. So the mind becomes really, really quiet. Vidharana, according to Krishnamacharya, also means that you learn to inhale in a way that will not disturb the mind, that will continue to maintain a certain steadiness of the mind. Prachardana Vidharanabhyam Va Pranasya also means what is not my prana. If I have taken the prana of other people and bothering myself with it, I have to throw it out, I have to give it away because that doesn't belong to me. Okay, so that I can clear my internal space. So I want to end with a short practice, of this prachardana vidharanabhyam va pranasya. Maybe this can be part of your regular pranayama practice. It can be something that you can use even if it is 3 minutes to 5 minutes. You can attempt to work with your breath to reduce the disturbance at the physical level, the level of the mind. And of course, you need to be able to breathe comfortably. You cannot do this if the breath is already agitated. Like my teacher always used to say, you cannot practice using weapons at the time of war. The weapons have to be practiced before the war comes. So if I have practiced enough, I can use my breathing very efficiently to calm my system and move into a better state of health and mind. But if I have not practiced, then I cannot use it. So I'm hoping all of us have some practice that we can bank on and maybe deepen the practice. So if you can sit with your back erect, bring your awareness to your body. You can bring your chin down, close your eyes. Make sure your body is very relaxed. Bring your awareness to the breath. Let your inhalation be very natural and quiet. Inhalation can simply be the fruit of a good exhalation. So just let it be normal. But while you're exhaling, start exhaling from your lower abdomen and slowly deepen your exhalation and try to throw the breath out completely and fully, but in a very quiet way. So maybe you can start with exhaling for 3 seconds. Inhale, exhale, 1, 2, 3. Inhale, exhale, 1, 2, 3. We'll go to 4 seconds exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just keep extending your exhalation. With each inhalation, you're aware of whatever comes up for you, whatever is disturbing you. And as you exhale, just let go of it. Hold whatever you're holding lightly so it can just drop away on itself. Don't have to make much effort to throw it out or push it out. Just let it go. Yeah. Inhale, become aware. Exhale, let go and empty your mind completely. At the end of the exhalation, if you can just pause for a little while, keeping the mind very quiet. Watch. And then let the inhalation happen on itself. Then exhale slowly and completely. No force, no tension, any part of the body, just let it go. Every disturbing thought, every disturbing sensation can be thrown out with the breath. So you can continue as long as you have time and you're able to really work with your breath in a very attentive way. The breath is our best friend, and Patanjali teaches us how to take care of ourselves by taking care of our breath. So the study of the Yoga Sutra is a very fascinating study. Learn from a teacher who's practicing, who continues to work with themselves, because it's not an intellectual study, and continue to keep the questions alive. Like I said, if I want to learn yoga, I have to have a better state of mind. And that better state of mind is going to come to me with the practice of yoga. So everything has to work together. I hope I have been able to just offer a little bit of taste of what this text can offer to all of us. Yeah? Fascinating journey within. I want to end with a prayer from the Upanishads, which is asking for us to be led from that which is not true towards truth, from the darkness of ignorance towards light within, and from our attachment to what is dying to our connection to what is eternal. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Shanti, shanti, shanti.